Hey everyone, Shane here with etrailer.com. Today I have a 2019 Subaru Legacy. I'm going to walk through how to install the CURT Class II Trailer Hitch receiver. This is what our hitch is going to look like when it's installed. You can see our cross tube is visible, as well as our receiver tube. Cross tube is going to be a round construction, so it fits nicely with the contour of the vehicle. Steel construction, black powder coat finish, so it's going to hold up really well in all weather conditions. As I mentioned, this is going to be a Class II hitch. If it was me and I ever planned on pulling a trailer at any point in time later on down the road, I would go with either the Draw-Tite or the Curt Class III Hitch for a few different reasons, which we're going to go over here in a few minutes. This being a Class II hitch, it's going to give us an 1¼ by 1¼ receiver tube opening, so it's going to limit us on some of the accessories that we can install on it. That being said, the Draw-Tite in the Curt Class III, there's going to be a lot more accessories that are going to be available for that. Hitch pin hole is going to be right here. It's going to be 1/2 inch in diameter. I'm going to take a standard 1/2 inch hitch pin. Hitch pin and clip does not come with this hitch, however they can be found here at eTrailer. These are going to be a safety chain loops. We're going to have a plate that's going to be welded on the bottom of our cross tube and our receiver tube. Fairly large openings. It's going to accommodate some different size safety chain hooks. Now, as far as our weight capacities and measurements go, we're going to have a 350-pound max ton weight, which is a downward pressure on the inside of the receiver tube. So if we're putting a cargo carrier on, loading it up, bike rack, or even pulling a small trailer, we want to make sure that we're not exceeding that. We're going to have a 3,500-pound gross trailer weight, which is a trailer plus the load included. That's how much the hitch can pull. Always recommend checking the owner's manual of the vehicle. Make sure the vehicle can withstand that amount of weight. We're going to go with the lowest number between the vehicle and the hitch. Now, as far as our measurements go, from the ground, the top innermost part of our receiver tube is 9.5 inches. Keep that number in mind for any of your hitch mount accessories that may require a little bit more ground clearance. Because this is sitting so low, I am going to recommend, if you're putting a bike rack cargo carrier on, you want to try to get it up at least 13 inches. If you're going to be pulling a trailer, most of the time, trailers, when they're sitting level, the coupler is going to sit about 18 inches. Being an 1¼ by 1¼ receiver tube opening, there is not a shank that's going to get you up high enough to that 18 inches. That's why I recommend going with a Class III hitch, because there are plenty more options for adjustable ball mounts that'll get you more up to that, or closer to that 18 inches, where the 1¼ you don't have quite as many options. From the center of our hitch pin hole to the outermost part of our bumper, we're looking at about 3 inches. That number is important for any of your hitch mount accessories like your bike racks and cargo carriers that fold up against the vehicle. You want to make sure they're not going to make contact. There are ball mounts that you can find here at eTrailer that have different size rises and drops. Depending on how high you want to get or how low you want to get, you're going to be limited on that length. Some of them are going to come with balls pre-installed on them, some of them are not. If you go with one that does not have a pre-installed ball on it, I recommend going with a 2-inch ball, because 2-inch round ball is going to be your most common coupler or trailer coupler out there. So it's going to work with more trailer couplers if you decide you're pulling a couple different trailers. You can find any of those components here at eTrailer. Now, as far as how this hitch sits on this vehicle, be honest with you, I probably would not install it on mine. I don't like how much this hangs down. If I was going to put one on my car, I'd go with the Draw-Tite Class III. It's going to sit much closer to the bottom of the fascia, and the Class III is going to have that 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening, where it's going to accommodate a lot of different accessories. I'm really not going to have to be real picky on what I put on my hitch. As far as the installation process, pretty simple and straightforward. It's not going to require any major tools. It is going to require you to drill in each frame rail to open the hole up to get your hardware up inside. Other than that, again, pretty straightforward. You can do it in your garage, or you can do it on in your driveway with it on the ground. That being said, let's go ahead and walk through how to get it installed. To start our installation, we're going to have to remove our exhaust or lower it. To make it easier, if you have this cover, we're going to take it off first, because our exhaust runs right up inside of it. It's going to be a little bit difficult to get it down low enough. So we'll take a 10mm socket and remove the 2 bolts here on the bottom. we're going to slide this back, and then we're going to take the wings, we're going to get them underneath, and then we'll slide this off and set it aside. And we're going to take a strap. We need to hang it from anywhere underneath. We need to make sure we go underneath our exhaust. Here and here. Let's kind of tighten that up. So when we remove the hangers, our strap's going to support our exhaust. Now I'm going to take some lubricant. You can use soapy water. Or we're going to spray this hanger. You're going to have one on this side, and then we're going to have one right back here in the middle. Then we'll take a pry bar, and we need to get that slid off the end. It doesn't really matter which end you take off, as long as you get one of them off there. Like that. And we'll repeat that for the other two. Once we get our exhaust lowered, we're going to take a 10mm socket. We have single exhaust on our driver's side. We're going to remove the heat shield. Next, we need to trim our heat shield. You'll notice the two sides are different. What we're going to be cutting off is from this corner back to where it mounts right here. So we're basically cutting off this front mount. You kind of see how I have it marked out here. I'm just going to use some shears to get that piece cut out of there. On each frame rail, we're going to have two plugs. We're going to have one here, and we're going to have one right back here. We need to remove both of those. We're going to have this in each frame rail. We need to open up this forwardmost hole. I'm just going to use a step bit. We need to open it up to where our hardware will fit up inside. The hardware is going to be a spacer block and a carriage bolt. We just need to make sure we can get the whole thing up inside of that hole. I'm going to use a step bit. As I mentioned, if you want to, you can use just a rotary tool with a cutting blade and kind of notch out the two sides. You can use a grinding bit and grind out one side if you want. It's really up to you. Once you have both sides drilled out, it's a good idea to take some spray paint, Rustoleum paint, and spray the bare metal. Kind of help resist any rust or corrosion later on. Once it dries, we're going to take the spring end of our pull wire, rearmost hole. We're going to put the spring end in like that, and we want to come out this hole. It's a good idea if you take the end of this wire, bend it like that. That way it doesn't pull the whole thing through. And we're going to take our hardware, take our spacer block first. We're going to slide it on, slide it up into the hole. Carriage bolt, we'll thread it on like this. Pull it out just like that. We're going to do that same thing on the other side of the vehicle. Now with the next set of hands, we're going to raise our hitch up into position. Feed our pull wire through the corresponding hole. We're going to remove the pull wire. Install a flange nut. So it holds our hitch up in place. 3/4 inch socket will tighten the hardware on our hitch. Once we have our hitch secured up to the frame rail, we're going to use drill bits and we're going to drill out the second hole to the size of our hardware. I'm going to use a step bit or several bits. I'm going to start with one to make a pilot hole, and instead of just going up to a 1/2 inch, What I'm going to do is I'm going to step up every couple bits. It'll save the bits and it'll save your shoulders. It'll go through the frame rail much easier. So again, we'll start with this one. Once you have your hole drilled out, spray it again with some paint. We're going to do the same thing we did with our back bolt here. Spring in out through this hole. Go ahead and put in our spacer block. Right on the carriage bolt. And get it up into place like that. Once you have your other hardware installed, you have your hardware tightened down, we're going to come back and we're going to torque it to the specification in the instructions. Reinstall your heat shield, then we'll come back and we'll reinstall our exhaust. Once you have your exhaust back up in place, you're ready to go. It's going to do it for a look at in installation on the CURT Class II Trailer Hitch receiver on a 2019 Subaru Legacy.